Hey there, I'm Sarah Holbrook. I'm the Executive Director of the Pinhead Institute here in Telluride, Colorado, and the lucky person who gets to interview the mayor of Telluride,
Hi,
Sean
Sarah.
Murphy. How the heck are you?
I'm well. It's good to be back.
Yeah, good to catch up. So what's going on in town?
It's snowing.
It is snowing yet again. Let's talk about the snow.
Well, we've had, I was talking to Bill Jensen about this the other day, and so I said, have we broken the record for real yet? And he explained to me that some years they count October and some years they don't. So when you take October into account, I think they've broken it.
Wow.
But hey, if it continues snowing like this for the last, 10 days that we have left or something?
I know.
Then
Not
we'll
bad.
take that.
Yeah, we will, sure.
But
have you been getting up there?
I've probably only been out about 30 days this year, so
that's not bad.
It's better than last year for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, both the conditions as well as my frequency of skiing.
Yeah.
So no complaints.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So what's going on? We've had a council meeting since we last talked.
We have.
What are the headlines there?
You know, we started to wrestle with the concept of what is the appropriate land use down in the Lawson area.
Oh, yes.
More specifically, Kathy Green, for her Society Turned Business Park, brought forward a proposal. You might remember, we'll start with the historic sort of background.
Sure.
I guess in 1991, the town did a, neither would I. I think I was graduated from college.
Yeah.
In that year.
I was working at Primetime Live for ABC News back in 1991.
That was before Larry King, right?
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
So, 91,
91,
the town and the Lawson Hill area, the county, formed this agreement, and the agreement only allows very restricted uses out there. So mostly light industrial, just the sort of things that you see in the existing Society Turned Business Park, like a light industrial brewery, not really with a tasting room, and things like a sandwich shop, but no full-on restaurants, that sort of thing. Because the idea then was, okay, we don't want competition, direct competition for any type of business that's in town.
Right.
We want complementary businesses out
Sure,
there.
so it's the laundromat, the dry cleaners, the
various
coffee roasters,
contractors
that kind of
of construction trade sort of things. And that obviously is, I guess, worked well for Kathy. But Kathy came to us, the town council, and said, hey, it's 28 years on. Things have changed. The town is much larger than it was in 1991. Lawson Hill is much larger than it was in 1991. There are neighborhood commercial uses that she would like us to consider. And then she came up with sort of a short list, but things like a restaurant, things like maybe a more full service type of establishment. So we had a conversation about it with her in a work session and said, okay, maybe up to 30% of your square footage out there at Society Turned Business Park could be adapted into things that people are more keen to have. So let's wait and see.
But the town of Telluride doesn't manage Lawson, or does it?
Well, no, we provide water and sewer, and
Right.
that's the crux of this, because they're getting that essential utility, and in exchange for that utility, we've had a practice in the past of saying, well, you either need to agree to annex into the town, or you need to have a pre-annexation type arrangement, which is what we did with Lawson Hill. That later fell apart, I think about 5 years after they concluded some sort of agreement in the late 90s on that. That never happened, as we know, so Lawson Hill is not part of the town, some of us think, unfortunately. But the question was, since we have kind of the effective control over what uses occur out there under the existing agreement, should we revisit that agreement? And all of us basically said, yes, I think it's time for us 28 years on to recognize that times have changed, populations have grown, there are other needs of the community out there that don't conflict with things in town. So we had that conversation, and then also separate and apart, we've been sort of behind closed doors, trying to be very supportive of the Med Center. So not in Lawson Hill, but right there at Society Turn at the roundabout. That's county land. That's not technically Lawson Hill. So the County Planning Commission had a meeting, I think it was March 13th, and it was a packed house, despite the fact it was another snowy day. And we, various stakeholders were there, including the Med Center, including the owner of the property, Genesee Properties, which is also known as San Miguel Valley Corporation. And so,
And
we
are
had
they the people
sort
that
of
used to own the entire valley floor?
That's correct.
Yeah, got it.
The
Okay.
Blue family. Yeah. So they have very graciously, after a series of multi-year discussions with the medical center, reached sort of a conceptual agreement. So what they're doing is going to the county and asking for an amendment of the master plan that governs that particular parcel of approximately 20 acres.
Okay.
There are a couple of public benefits that are already proposed. One is giving the med center a 2-acre site. Another is giving the town, for the wastewater treatment plant, another 1.5 acres. They would have to do whatever the affordable housing mitigation is required under the county rules, which are not quite the same as the town, which has caused us to pause a little and look at that and reflect on that. But the basic takeaway is there'll be another planning commission meeting at the county meeting room on May 8th.
May 8th, if you're interested in what's going on out in
At
the...
approximately 9:45, 10 o'clock. So if you're interested in what's going on out at that location, it's a good idea to turn out to make your views known.
And we're talking about med center possibly, affordable housing possibly.
And other uses.
And
So
other
the other
uses.
uses are sort of smaller retail. They actually, at the March 13th meeting, highlighted for us that they agree they don't want big box. None of us really want a giant Walmart there. And so, or a city market or something.
Yeah.
Not that that would make sense financially, or,
Yeah.
that's the other thing to keep in mind. A lot of these uses, although they seem like they're potentially, oh my gosh, it's scary, the market is going to say, well,
It's
we
gonna
live in
regulate
a
what
small
could be out
community
there, yeah.
and we're not,
Yeah.
we don't have 20,000 people dropping in every day
Yeah.
like the city market down in Montrose. So
Right.
reality is we need to have a conversation based on today's facts and circumstances and not be looking backwards, but rather looking forwards.
Okay.
So the town council, generally speaking, is very supportive of having the med center at that location. We're just going through an exercise where we're just trying to balance some of our concerns. I wouldn't say that they're, deal breakers, but things where if we just as neighboring landowners work constructively together in order to get some sort of a harmonized plan out there that does allow for some uses that haven't occurred out there before. So I think there'll be a small pharmacy, for example, associated with the medical center.
Oh, sure.
I think the med center is proposed to be something between 20 and 30,000 square feet. So it'll
How
be
much is it now?
I think they only have 13,000 feet at
That's-
their current
yeah,
location.
that'd
It's
be a
very
big-
tight.
big
So,
expansion.
so that would be good for the whole community and the whole region. So we, the town, are trying to be supportive. The owner of the land is not interested in annexing into town, which used to be a deal breaker. This current town council is taking a different view.
Okay.
I think several of us, including me, are wanting to just make sure we have a complementary relationship and not necessarily a stranglehold on what happens or some sort of line item veto of, oh, tell us what every single business is going to be and we'll go ahead and say yes or no. That's a little overreach in my opinion. So basically land use is on the table because we're providing to both of those, to both the existing Lawson Hill area as well as this proposed area at Society Turn,
Right.
water and sewer. And
Right.
so the question is, our really critical focus should be, do we have the capacity to serve what's proposed?
Right.
Because as we all know, at peak times of demand here, festivals and Christmas, our wastewater treatment plant really reaches its maximum capacity.
And will its maximum capacity be changed once the new sewer treatment plant is installed
Yes.
in the next couple of years? I know it's going to be a huge capital improvement, many, many millions of dollars.
Right.
But will it increase the capacity far beyond
It
what
absolutely
it is
will.
now?
It'll
Okay.
it'll allow us to grow for another 30 years.
Okay,
So this
so-
existing plant
yeah.
was scaled in order to serve the community 30 years ago.
Right, now
out
it's
to
time to
today.
move
And
it,
so we've
change
basically
it, yeah.
reached the end of its useful life, and it's time for us to change and then again look forward, not backwards.
And I know that there was some criticism of, oh my goodness, the charges for water and sewage have gone up, but that's in part to raise money to increase the capacity of the new sewage
That's right,
treatment.
exactly. And it's partly because we had kept rates so low for so long. And I know this has been it's been a shock to some people, and we've received feedback on all sides saying, okay, we don't like it, but it's a good thing, or we don't like it and it's a bad thing.
Right.
So I know a community member actually reached out to us recently, Mark Frankman, and highlighted some concerns. And so it's an ongoing conversation, but the reality is we have to pay for it one way or the other.
Yeah.
And so we're not putting it all on the backs of the users. We are going to do a mixture of both a rate increase, which we've announced that was effective in February, and then we're also going to go to the community in November and ask for, I think, a $6 million bond in order for the town to do its 2/3 share of the intermediate, like next 2-year patches, small expansions. So the idea is the time is ripe for us to, finalize what the plan is going to be out there. We do need this additional land. The landowner out there is willing to give us the land at no
Oh, great.
cost.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, or it raises other conversations. If we're going to build a new sewer plant, should we put it further down valley? Should we link other communities into it as well?
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
So that's a conversation that can continue to happen because
But
we
in
haven't.
the meantime, you're doing the patch.
We're going to do the patch, and we're going
and
to move
6
forward
million is 2/3 of
responsibly
that cost.
and hopefully under budget.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I love talking about.
Yeah. It's not very pleasant, but it is reality.
Yeah. What else is going on? What else did you guys talk about in your town council meeting?
Well, again, on the idea of looking forward, we are actually on April 1st. We're going to have a meeting
April Fools.
with
We are.
3
We are.
applicants for the Southwest Area Master Plan. So this is town-owned land, Shandoka parking lot, Carhenge.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Everything along Mahoney, things along Pacific. How do we make that area more pedestrian-friendly? How do we make it so that we have commuter parking that's maximized and apparent and used
yeah.
in a responsible way? You know, this goes back to the 90s when Elaine Fisher was the mayor. They did a series of studies. They determined, okay, here's the ideal location for intercept parking, which was the Shandoka lot. We looked at the cost. They looked at the cost then, decided it was a little prohibitive. We're now, 20-some years later, we need to revisit that. I actually
Yeah.
had lunch this past week with the mayor of Mountain Village, and she explained to me, we're really maxed on parking, and you guys, we want to have an intergovernmental meeting in the next couple months actually to talk about what's the overall regional parking strategy, and part of that
Yeah.
is our Southwest Area Master Plan. So what we've done is we put out a request for qualifications to various planning professional planners who do consultation like this, and we've received 3 proposals back. And so we, the entire town council, will meet on April 1st with these various entities. And
Yeah.
so,
and then you're going to
then we'll
choose one of
select
the
one.
entities, and then they're going to come up with an
they're
idea
gonna
for
come
how
up
to
with-
develop
yeah.
those areas in a more fruitful manner. I wish that there was a way that we could keep the traffic out of the traffic circle. I wish that there could be an intercept parking lot right before the because the traffic coming into the school is insane in the morning, and that would be, again, about the same time that commuters would be coming in to get to work or to go skiing.
Well, as we sort of focus on what can happen in the southwest area of town, we should also be highlighting and actually making it obvious for people that there is now an intercept lot out at
Out in
Lawson
Lawson,
Hill.
yeah,
that
right
the
by the
county,
new
thanks to
Telluride
the state,
Tire,
there are 120 some odd spaces there.
120
And so
spaces,
just no
wow.
overnight parking there.
Right,
But
there's no overnight night parking in Carhenge.
right.
Yeah.
So effectively, and with the increased frequency of
And that
the
bus comes, I think, every half hour now, right? Yeah,
yeah.
so that's a good choice.
So that's an option that people don't know about. I know Tommy Watkinson has made this point clear several times, that the wayfinding for cars is not that great in the area. So this is an area where we need to highlight that as well.
Yes.
And maybe once we have more activity going on down there at Lawson
What
Hill.
about just some signs, some metal signs at the turnaround saying, go park here?
I don't know, they would have to be in the CDOT right of way, so I guess we'd have to clear that with CDOT to figure out what's possible, but I think that surely
Yeah.
wouldn't be a problem. So as we adapt and grow, I think we're poised to maybe highlight that parking asset out there. That could have a deck of its own at some point.
Yeah.
So that could be, double, triple capacity of what's there now. So
Yeah.
we're really just trying to restart the conversation about what's the right mix of cars and people, and
Yes.
how do we keep cars isolated in a certain part of town and not conflict with important things like the school.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
if
That's
we
a tough
could
question to answer.
move that forward, that would
So
be
the
great.
meeting is April 1st, and is that an open meeting or is that a
It
closed
is.
meeting?
It's a public
So if anyone
meeting,
who's
yeah.
interested in what's going on in the land in the southwest of Telluride, Colorado, which includes Carhenge and Mahoney and
And this will be a
Shandoka.
this is just to select a consultant.
But
And
but
then,
if they want to be
if
in
they
the
wanna-
ground floor, they
exactly.
should come to this meeting April 1st.
and we, the town council, view this as so important that we didn't just select 2 of us, for example, to do
Yeah.
the participate.
full meeting.
Everybody needs
Uh-huh.
to be participating because this
Nice.
is a critical thing for the future, the next 30 years. So.
Absolutely, yeah.
But, and then, let's see, what else? I don't know, anything burning on your mind?
Well, what
that's-
about sales tax and real estate transfer tax? We always talk about those numbers.
We're still, actually, there was a closing last Friday. The Ajax lot closed.
Oh, yes. People have been
So-
asking me about that. The Ajax lot is next to the post office.
Right.
It's had a fence that's had a wraparound for a while saying it's going to be the Ajax Hotel.
Right?
And then what? And it's kind of sat there for a
So-
while, and there's like big trucks parked there, and that's about it.
It's my understanding, actually, the owner of the land, the former owner, and I think now the current owner, the town had a lease at no cost to use that for parking. So we've been using the trucks that are there are really relating to staging for our Four Corners project.
Okay.
And so that's where we've been staging a lot of the construction
Okay.
materials and
Sure.
other stuff. But people are able to park there, and it's not very well signed. But so the new owner, I assume that this arrangement will continue for some period of time. My understanding is that the new owner is going to go back to Hark and is going to request just start over with a plan.
Oh, okay,
so
because
it'll
there
be the
was a
same-
plan and it had been approved. I think it was too tall and they had to bring it down, and it was too wide and then they had to bring it in. I mean, there were some adjustments, and then the plan was approved, and now that's all gone away.
Well, it's still in place. Actually, the existing right that that Hark and P&Z granted, the existing rights, are good until December 31st, 2019.
So if somebody started to
So,
break ground
but
before
if-
then,
I
they could
think
use those plans.
They could, and
But
I
do
don't.
you
I
think
just
the
think
new
that they're
owner is gonna-
suboptimal, and I think that the new owners actually have a development group that has some pretty sophisticated people who've done high-end luxury historic properties before. So the idea of blending something new in with the old,
Okay.
they have a different view, and they've actually, my understanding is they've engaged an architecture firm out of Denver that did like the Crawford Hotel at Union Station and did the whole
Okay.
Union Station renovation.
Sure,
Those
people love
people
that,
are,
yeah.
I think, coming to the table with this new owner, and they'll come back to Hark, is my
Okay,
understanding.
so what happened to the old owner? They just lost interest, lost funding,
My
something like
understanding was
that?
they could never achieve the funding that they needed.
Okay,
So
got it. So now
for-
they've sold it to the new owners. Do we know who the new owners are? This is very exciting. We're breaking news here. Maybe not
we're-
breaking news, but it's very exciting.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know who the exact equity holders are,
of the new
but
place.
I have a feeling it's at least a very professional.
Any locals, or are they mainly out-of-town people?
I think it's mainly out-of-town people.
Okay, so
the
they
two
own
people I
it.
know that are involved are in Aspen and in Snowmass.
Okay, so
or
they
not in
own it.
Snowmass, Steamboat.
Oh, okay, sure. They
So-
own it. They're going to get some new designers in,
Right.
figure out what they want to do with it. Do we think it's going to be a hotel? Because the old
Oh yeah,
property.
I think it'll be
Okay.
it'll be the same sort of concept of mixed use of a hotel. There'll be restaurant, there'll be bar, there'll be
Okay.
some condominium as well.
Interesting.
But it'll go back to Hark, and it'll. I think basically they're going to start from scratch
over.
again.
Okay,
But they've
that's
already
interesting.
lined up apparently the dream team of building like a hotel in a historic district. We'll leave it at that. That's about all I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all I
so,
need to
but
know.
that's been something that's been an open, piece of the puzzle for
Yeah.
so long since we both came here, right?
Yeah, for sure,
So
absolutely.
when I had my
Yeah.
wine bar down in that last block
Yes.
before that location, some of
Yeah.
us merchants were incredibly anxious to see something happen like the Sheraton there that would be an economic engine for us, that would bring 100 people, let's say, sleeping there when it's maxed out.
Yes.
Having those people spill over across the street to Aroma Spa, or across the street to Mix, or over to Kaki's Cashmere Red, so or to drinking and eating establishments close
Yeah.
by. So that's really, a merchant told me actually, who used to occupy the space that Arroyo was in back after that building was built. He explained to me he operated in that location, which is the 200 East block of Main Street,
Sure.
for 3 years. He moved then to the 100 West block of Main Street. and
Which
his
is like where the
revenue-
Nugget is and Ghost Town and all those. Yeah, sure.
Yep. His revenues apparently tripled.
Wow, because
So-
people just don't want to walk that far.
I know,
It's not that far. Wow.
I lived that reality
Yes,
though. I used
exactly.
to poo-poo that idea before,
Yeah, before you were a business owner in that block.
And my
yeah.
real life experience is that's exactly
That's
right.
true.
People stop at the buck.
Yeah.
And so they really
Wow.
just don't keep migrating eastward, especially in the winter. So
Yeah,
for
we'll
whatever
see.
reason, that is reality. But if we
Developing the
did
east
have
side
something
would
that
be
was
interesting.
like a little Nell,
Yeah.
with other sort of public spaces, that would be
could be
really
nice.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did we talk about, was there like a youth link plan that we were talking about from last time? Did the youth come and say they wanted to have
The
a place
youth-
to hang out?
They did.
And is there any news on that, or are they still just kind of trying to figure it out?
Well, they have a temporary space, which I understand is over by Lift 7.
Okay.
It's the ski and snowboard
Oh,
club
right.
space.
Yes.
And I know that space is full of equipment and is not, necessarily all theirs all the time. So the ideal is to get them to all theirs all the time. There's actually another option that's just been floated as of 2 weeks ago that might allow us to receive a structure that's going to be demolished or moved and perhaps put it somewhere else on town-owned land.
Wow.
So we're sort of mulling, what's the cost to do that? Is it cheaper to do that than it is to build new? Do we have a place for it? So we're sort of starting an internal conversation with some of our departments as to how and if we can make that work. So that aside, there is, there's a commitment on our part, on the town of Mountain Village's part, and I believe the county part, to give the kids for now. I think each government is going to throw in $5,000,
Oh, right,
so that they
for
have
somebody-
some operating
right.
monies, so that they can keep their temporary home going and stocked with what they need.
Right. Oh,
So
that sounds
we're definitely interested in trying to create a home and create the right blend of something that gives them the space and the sort of good environment to recreate in, as well as to congregate. So.
Sure. Oh, nice.
But so we're not there yet, but we, as you probably heard from the 2 meetings ago when this came up, we are building. We're going to do an expansion of the pavilion, and so the idea was, okay, maybe we add a second story. It's built so that you could.
Wait, what's the pavilion?
The hockey rink.
The hockey rink. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
The Henley rink, or however we want to call it.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec calls it the Henley, or the pavilion.
Yeah.
So
Okay, got
because
it.
it changes, I guess it's the Herzog during Film Fest, and so
Right,
the
right.
overall concept is
Is
the
the
pavilion.
So they might add a second
So-
floor, and that could be a youth hangout space.
There's a possibility of doing that, but I think the logistics of it are, first of all, the cost. It's quite expensive. An elevator would be required, I guess, which is always an expense, both
Yeah.
going in and then a constant maintenance issue. So I think everything's on the table still. We haven't really identified a site specifically, but we're looking.
Yeah.
And we're doing what we can.
Neat.
So,
Oh, that's great.
but
Yeah. What else is going on? I think it was, did we talk about, I know that you guys were working with the county for affordable housing out by Society Turn. Is that kind of the same thing that we were talking about earlier with the Med Center and the?
well, with the county specifically, we're actually probably
Oh, no, it's not over there.
It's next to Eider Creek,
It's
right?
next to Eider Creek, yeah, exactly. Any news on that, or is that still just kind of moving forward?
No,
slowly?
actually, in May is my expectation. We will get together. We've appointed, I guess, the Telluride Housing Authority Subcommittee, Todd Brown, Delaney Young, myself, Geneva Shawnette is the alternate. We will start engaging with 2 members of the county, I think Lynn Black and one of the county commissioners, and start going through sort of assembling a request for proposal that
Oh,
we'll put
okay,
out to
sure.
a
Yeah.
to design build teams, and so presumably we'll have multiple people
Neat.
coming at us in the summer saying, yes, we would like to be
And then we
considered.
get to kind of review those plans as citizens and chime in and say
Yeah.
what we think about them.
So
That'd
that
be
process
fun.
will start not during off season, but I would expect like Memorial Day forward.
neat.
We
Okay,
should see some
great.
progress on that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking ahead as well. We're having our next town council meeting is April 2nd. We're going to have a work session at 11 o'clock in the morning to discuss a proposal that's percolated up to town council from planning and zoning. That proposal is actually the idea that they want to incentivize people to create affordable housing on site for new construction, new residential construction. So my understanding is, I don't know all the details, the packet actually just came out today. So for anybody who wants to go to the town's website and look for the packet for the April 2nd meeting, there'll be more detail. I haven't read it yet, but
Too
I will
soon.
this weekend. And so we will be considering a couple of ideas, one of which is maybe decreasing the maximum house size. Right now it's 4,000 square feet on a lot. And the proposal that I've heard, hearsay, is that P&Z might reduce that, but then allow the owner to go back up to that 4,000 square feet if the owner builds affordable housing on site.
Oh, nice, yeah, so like a little
So-
caretaker's annex on the back of your building or something like
Exactly.
that.
So
Yeah,
the idea
that'd be
is
great.
how to, I guess to paraphrase Kathy Green, it's, from the old days, that Hoover thing about a chicken in every pot or whatever,
Yes,
or Coolidge,
exactly.
I think was that. She wants an employee in every yard. So
Right, because there's so many dark houses. If there were employees, then even if the big houses were empty, at least there'd be a small structure that would house somebody who actually lives and works in town, right?
Right.
Is that the idea?
So, and
Sounds like a good idea.
So if you're interested in that, that's probably a good thing to come out and participate in
Yeah.
a public work session for.
Okay.
No decisions are slated to be made. It's just more of a, we had asked P&Z to come up with any thoughts or to send us any sort of proposals that they might have in order to always enhance what we can do for affordable housing. And this is
Yeah.
one of those things
Yeah,
coming up
sure.
and at us.
Yeah.
So
I forgot, we were talking about sales tax and real estate transfer tax, and you said there was a sale that closed. and
sorry,
then that
that's
got
the
us
real
talking
estate
about
transfer
the
tax.
HX.
We were down in
Yeah.
we were down in January. February was up from that. This closing occurred in March. So the March numbers won't be known until April 20th, I guess. But I would say it's a bit more volatile, which doesn't surprise us because first of all, there's not a lot of inventory, and when something closes, it's it's big and expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
So we don't need
exactly.
quite as many transactions
What was the
to
price
fill.
tag on the Ajax lot?
I think it was around 12 million.
So that'll be a big infusion into the real estate transfer
It was over
tax.
$300,000.
Oh,
yeah.
nice, that's
So
good, that can.
we'll take that.
Yeah.
Our overall budget for 2019 is 4.4 million. So that's almost 10% of that.
Yeah,
So,
and what about
it's
sales
high
tax?
threes.
How was that looking in February and
It's
March?
actually pretty steady.
Okay,
We're
good.
up single digits still.
Yeah,
So
well, that's good, because last year, people did a lot of shopping and buying because there
Because they
wasn't a lot
couldn't
of
ski,
skiing.
yeah.
So to not be down this year with the crazy skiing that we've had is nice.
This is speculation on my part, and I'm sure I'll get throttled by the tourism board for saying this, but I think because of the good snow, we've had more people here this winter too. So even if everybody's out skiing, we're still seeing more people at the end of the day, après
doing a little
enjoying
shopping,
and
yeah.
retailing
Eating,
and
yeah.
restauranting.
Not
So,
bad, not bad.
but yeah, no, I would say we're in an okay place.
Mm-hmm.
We're not terribly worried about anything. We're obviously almost 1/3 or 1/4 of the way through the year, and
And it's looking okay so far.
yeah.
That's great. What else is on your mind? Because I have just a few
Off-season,
questions. Oh, yeah. What are your plans? You going to go away?
I'm going to Washington D.C. for a few days to go to a brunch for Mayor Pete Buttigieg, the guy running
Oh,
for
yes,
president.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was actually at the town hall where he blew up
at South by
CNN, at South by
Southwest?
Southwest. I was in the
Ah.
audience in the second row. I sat right behind his husband. I gave him my card. It was very exciting.
Very cool. Well, they
Yeah.
need to come to Telluride.
Yes, I told them that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to tell him that when I see him on
Yes.
April 7th.
Yes, exactly.
So,
so what's the event for which you're going to see him April 7th?
it's actually, there's an LGBTQ political action sort of group called the Victory Fund.
Oh, neat.
And so they are doing a brunch for Mayor Pete.
Oh, neat.
So, and friends of mine who live both here and in Phoenix, as well as another group of friends that live in Chicago, both of them during Gay Ski Week said to me, "Oh, why don't you come out to DC?
Yeah.
We're both going to be, doing
Yeah.
these events." So
Oh, neat.
yeah,
That'll be
so
great.
that'll
Yeah.
be nice. We'll see.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'll just be in Phoenix for a couple days, a little bit of sun, and then I really have a lot of painting I need to do in my condo. So I think it's
exciting
one of
plans,
these.
Sean.
Okay, I'm running out of
Yeah.
excuses, and
I still haven't even unpacked from my last trip 2
Oh.
weeks ago. I'm so bad.
well,
Yeah.
you're heading out tomorrow, so
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, well, no, just going for the weekend to go climbing. It's Wiley's birthday. He's turning 17. He just turned 17 yesterday.
Wow.
And he's doing the birthday challenge, which, if you're a rock climber, is trying to climb as many routes as you have years. So he's going to try to climb 17 routes in a day in Indian Creek, which is pretty stiff because Indian Creeks are long routes, a lot of climbing. So that'll be pretty challenging for him, but he's going to give it a try. So we'll all be in Indian Creek.
Well, having
over the
seen him
weekend.
climb a rope on Christmas Eve or whatever at your house
Yeah.
up to the top of a cathedral ceiling, I
know.
have no doubt that he'll make it.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that, but that'll be fun. And then for our break, I think we're going to go do a little off, past this season skiing up in Utah,
Ooh.
and then some rock climbing down in Red Rock. So
Yeah,
that
I
should
see
be fun.
Aspen's open 2 weeks longer than we are.
Yeah, I know.
yeah,
I wonder if they're also, national forest, because I think our issue isn't the snow as much as it is the national forest and elk calving and stuff like that.
I've heard that that's not really true.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Well,
I've
we have to
heard
get
that
to the bottom of that.
if the resort
Next-
wanted to,
They could
all
stay
these
open?
things need to be pre-announced. That's the
Okay.
problem. Like trying
Okay.
to tack on an extra 2 weeks at the
Yeah,
end of the
doesn't
season.
work.
You have employees who already have their plans set. You have school break. that's
Right.
unfortunately jammed right in here.
Yes.
I think that we, again,
Could
I'll
stay
get
open
throttled
later.
by the ski company for this. I think it would be a better plan for them to open not at Thanksgiving, but rather open at Christmas and then operate through the month of April. And then have the school switch the spring break to the first 2 weeks of May. And then if we did all this and we announced it a year in advance, then people could make plans. Employees would have, they would
Yeah.
know their work dates.
Yeah.
And therefore, I mean, if we had a no snow year, I guess that could be awful. But,
Yeah.
we tend to get more snow later.
Yeah.
And the reality
do.
is we don't get a lot right around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we really do.
So-
We're going to have to revisit that. I have some questions from the
Sure.
community. One is, the quote is that the things that sink mayors are weather and potholes. So we've already talked about the weather. What about the potholes? I hear there was a bumper sticker that said, "I'm not driving drunk, I'm just avoiding the potholes." I haven't seen it yet, but I can tell.
have heard
Yeah.
people who've actually been stopped. This is
Yeah.
years and years ago when
Yeah.
the spur had a bunch of potholes
Oh,
on it.
yeah.
I'm very friendly with one individual who was pulled over and
They thought he was-
breathalyzed,
yeah.
and he had not been drinking. And
But he was just avoiding
he
the
said, "I'm just
potholes."
avoiding the potholes."
Yeah, they're pretty crazy.
I will tell you, it impacts me most directly and most. I have some of the worst potholes
You do.
on South Davis Street
Oh,
when
they're
you're trying
terrible.
to navigate beyond the
They're
wine mine and
terrible,
then
yeah.
make that left and
So
then the right.
bad. Yeah.
Even the large SUVs, I mean, everyone's crawling around, the circumference of the circle and trying not to fall into one of those,
Yeah.
especially those of us with cars that are not very high off the ground.
Yeah.
Public Works is definitely aware of this. Actually, my understanding is that the town manager just did an interview with the Daily Planet, so I
yes.
think that the last edition of the paper
Had a little talk
has
about
some
it.
discussion
Apparently
of it.
there's cold weather patching that just doesn't last that long, and then you have to wait till it warms up, and then they'll do more.
Well, then, good. That's the answer. But
Yeah.
it's funny you say that because I ran into Chris and Patty Arndt the other day, literally 36 hours ago, and they said they too were kidding about Mayor Pete, and they said, "Oh, did you hear his comment about the potholes are the
That-
bane of every mayor's
Yes,
existence
that
or
could
something?"
have been the
And
quote, yeah.
I said, "Oh," and they said, "I think you need to make a major announcement about when these things are going to be fixed."
Oh, yeah, why
And
don't we?
so,
Let's make one right here, right now.
I don't want to buy into Public Works, though.
Oh.
We'll have to do it on, we'll definitely be doing it. It's
Yeah.
not like the whole town is shutting down and we're not going to pay attention to them. But frankly, the ones in front of Clark's and the ones down on South Davis are wicked. And,
Wicked, yeah.
they-
And I see they try to fill them in, but then the stuff just gets kicked out again because it just doesn't last that long.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know what other than pouring cement in there.
Yeah, which I don't think you can do
but
in the
I'm-
winter.
yeah.
I don't know. It's not like I'm a
Unless you
builder or
tent it,
anything.
that's right.
Yeah.
So.
But let's revisit this next time we talk.
Okay.
And the weather will be warmer, and then you
Next
can make,
month we'll do a check-in
yeah,
on
you
which
can make a
potholes are still
pronouncement.
existing.
You can say, "I've talked to Public Works, and here's our plan.
And
We're
by a
moving
date
forward
certain,
with it."
you'll have no more
Exactly,
potholes.
Exactly. And
Until next winter.
Let's get out in front of them. Okay.
No,
Let's do
they've
that.
actually, I will, as a shout out to Public Works, I do get several calls a week from people, mostly about the snow plowing, mostly
Right.
about some of the, the ruts and things that were
Yes.
created. So for
Yes.
example, not to out her, but Allison Branson, the Telluride vet, the other day texted me and said she was frustrated and it's good to send me pictures too.
Yeah.
She sent me this picture of this huge crevasse or whatever you want to call
Yeah,
it.
in the alley
In the
outside
alley.
her
So,
business.
to their credit, Rich Estes was on it. He gave me, he texted that night and said, "Tomorrow this will be a memory."
Yeah,
And so he
and it was.
got on it and took it away.
Boy, I saw one of the plows that had the multi-articulating truck thing coming around, and there was some garbage can kind of in the middle of the road, and I was thinking, should I move it? And he was like, and it was unbelievable, on the dime
How deft
turning, and
they
he did,
are,
yeah,
yeah.
he didn't touch it. I mean, it was quite remarkable.
No,
They're-
we
they're
have,
pretty good. But there's just been a lot of snow to keep up. Okay, here's
It's a
another.
good problem to have.
Yeah, definitely. Here's another question from the community. When will Telluride adopt its own town flag? I thought that was a great question. I know, right?
I don't know. We should
Yeah.
probably have a competition or something and let people, the arts community, weigh
Yes,
in, or people who
exactly.
have more artistic talent than I
Yeah,
do.
I'm going to call Kate Jones right now. And see if
That's
she
a
can get
great
involved.
public sort of.
I know, isn't
yeah.
that cute? Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay.
And that's basically it. Anything
All right.
else I haven't asked that you want to talk about?
No, I think we're just, obviously enjoy the last 10 days of skiing,
Get
everybody, or
up
boarding,
there.
whatever you do.
Yeah.
And hopefully
And drive safe.
we will all have safe vacations
Yeah.
in the off season.
Yeah.
And hopefully some people will get some painting done.
Yes, exactly. Oh, thank you, Sean. Always
Thank
a
you,
pleasure.
Sarah.
Take
My
care.
pleasure. Thank you.